Mr. Howerton, how are you? Good. It's nice to meet you. Please come in and sit down. Mrs. Howerton, hello. Garrett, nice to meet you as well. And hello, Brianna, how are you? Good. Please come in and sit down. We'll get started. Make yourself comfortable. Well, I appreciate, this opportunity to get to know your family and to know each of you, as individuals and the role that you play within the family. Mrs. Howerton, my understanding is that Brianna's residential therapist, upon discharge, suggested that we get together and have a family session. So at this first meeting, I'd like to introduce myself, give you a little background about myself, and then just go around. What would help me is to get to know each of you. But before we do that, my name is Jimmy Durbin, and I'm a licensed alcohol and drug counselor, as well as a licensed clinical social worker. And I work predominantly with youth who either have a drug overdose or some self-harm or suicide. Mr. Howerton and Mrs. Howerton, thank you for coming today. And Brianna and Garrett, glad you could make it as well. My name is Jimmy, and I was recommended by Brianna's residential therapist while she was in treatment. And so I'm grateful, Mrs. Howerton, that you reached out. May I call you Sandy? Excellent, thank you. So thank you for calling. I'm licensed as an alcohol and drug counselor and a licensed clinical social worker. I do most of my work with youth, and so I'm grateful for this opportunity to kind of get to know your family, get to know each of you, individually as well. So with that, if we could start with you, Sandy, and just what would help me first is to get some information about each of you. I'm curious about each of you and your lived experience, your perception, and your role within the family. So Sandy, if you could just start, I'd appreciate that. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing. Mr. Howerton, I'm going to call you Jack. So Jack, thank you for coming. Would you mind sharing the same, please? Where you work, your age, how long you've been married, and how did you meet Sandy? Thank you. Thank you for sharing. So I want you to know that this is a safe place, that what is said here is in confidence, and that what is shared in this room won't be brought outside of this office. Confidentiality and anonymity foster honesty, and so they make this a safe place to share. And so, Garrett, as I ask you, the similar questions, tell me what you hope would happen here today for you. What did you envision happening? What did you hope? What kind of outcome were you looking for with today's session? And so, Garrett, tell me also, what are you afraid of? What scares you? Okay. And so, Sandy, you've been married for 17 years. Um, how did you meet? Okay. And tell me about your parents. How was your childhood growing up? And did you have a lot of interactions with your grandparents or other extended family? Okay. And Jack, um, just give me an idea of your community, your neighborhood. Um, are you involved in a religion? Do you guys go to church? Do you have any activities that you like to do outside of the home? And Garrett, what do you guys do as a family for fun? And Garrett, let me ask you this. What would you like to find out about Brianna? And what questions do you have as to her drug overdose and the suicide attempt? And I guess the same question for you, Mom. Um, you mentioned um, that your parents, I think it was your father, yes, had a suicide attempt. That must have scared you. How old were you when that happened? And how did your parents react? Great. Yeah, thank you for sharing. Brianna, tell me about you. Um, share with me um, what you had hoped for in today's session. You understand? Segment 2. Garrett, do your parents bicker like this often? Jack and Sandy, hold on just 1 second. It's an important point of perspective that you're discussing, but let me check in with Garrett. Um, how does it make you feel when your parents bicker? And why do you think they do that? And who usually leaves the room when this type of thing happens? And do you think that's normal for a married couple to fight? Do you like it when they argue? And how does Brianna react when they fight? What do you notice that she does? Okay. And Brianna, does it bother you when your parents fight and argue? And do you feel like it's your fault? And, and when this happens, do you ever talk to Garrett about your feelings, about what your parents are doing? So, Jack and Sandy, when you hear that from your kids, what emotions come up? What feelings? Yeah, just one at a time. Jack, Please, go ahead. And Sandy, the same questions. Segment 3. Well, again, I want to thank each of you for the vulnerability, and for sharing honestly. And so as we kind of wrap up our session, I just want to ask you, Brianna, what would you like to see changed? What is working with the family? And what might indicate that things are moving in a better direction for you? So then not as fighting as much. And Garrett, what would you like to see changed? What do you think the family does really well? And what types of things would you like to see done differently? And Jack, how about you? So a common theme, one of the threads throughout is communicating and just having some fun. So some homework, if we call it that. Sometimes there's a negative connotation with homework. But more of just my suggestion really is for you guys to have an eye out. Do something fun together as a family. Connect with each other. Is that something that each of you could commit to? Yeah? Okay. And what type of activities for you would be fun? Jack, you would agree with that? Okay. So mom and dad, is that something that you could commit to in the next week? And then you'll come back and each report your experience and how that went. And notice just what changed this week, what was different. Excellent. And then the plan, the next step is just to schedule another session. And I'll see you each next week. Thank you.